Hey, girlfriend, you know who you are. You have big, big dreams. You want to write a book, stand on a TED Talk stage, be a life coach offering wisdom from your RV in Montana, a cafe in Barcelona, or a beach chair in Tulum. Your other girlfriends and your family, they don't always get your biz savvy. Why do you want to leave your JOB? Because you're a C.A.T.S, aka coach, author, thought leader, and speaker. Meet other change makers like yourself and find out how they make it happen. This is the Big Meow podcast.
Hello, C.A.T.S. I'm here with Dr. Sharon Lamm-Hartmann. Hi, Dr. Sharon.
Hi, Kristen. How are you? It's great to be with you today.
Oh my God, I'm so excited you're here. So let's talk about just building out your inner strengths, inside out learning.
Fabulous. So I came up with that name about 20 years ago, and it's because I feel so strongly that change happens from the inside out. So if we see something in our outer world that we don't like, or we need to change, then start on the inside. It might be a mindset that you have, or maybe there's a behavior you're noticing and there's a pattern that you need to shift. So when I find that when I help clients and myself really do those shifts on the inside, their outer world transforms as well.
None of us have those patterns that we want to shift, Dr. Sharon.
Not at all, Kristen. Yeah.
So, I mean, what is the process of just coming into awareness that there might be something that needs some attention from you?
Well, I'll give a personal example I'm dealing with right now. So you notice something in your outer world that's not changing, that's bothering you. And you might have a little bit of inner angst about it. So yeah, I have a 17-year-old son, and right now he's differentiating from his mother. And he tells me often, get out of my room and you're annoying, and I had to look at it. And he also told me, you talk to me in really nasty tones. And I was like, ooh, I didn't like hearing that, right? I mean, but that was a feedback from the outside. And I really had to look inside and see, why was I doing that? Like, why did I have this judgmental tone with my son when I would tell him, get off your video game? Or, and I had to really look at that, and still looking at it and shifting the pattern. And he actually noticed the other day, he said, I've noticed that you've been kinder in your tone. So it's really looking at those things in your outer world. You might get that feedback, or you're seeing something, wow, I keep having the same thing happen to me over and over and over again. Why is that? And then you need to kind of do a little self-examination.
Dr. Sharon, I can totally relate to that. I have 2 sons and 2 daughters, but my one son he's 19. He's in musical theater at UC Boulder. And then I have an older son who's 23, who's graduating. And I remember when he was in the house, and it was like, how long are you going to stay in your room? How long are you going to stay on those video games? So, I think some of it is just like this whole shared experience of being, a mom.
Yes, it is.
He's doing better now, but like he went through a period, especially COVID was super hard for him, where he, being in performing arts and not being able to go to school.
Oh my God.
It just was so hard for him. He just felt really, really down during that time.
Yeah, no, I can imagine, so many of our kids did. And I needed to look inside and say, wow, I am missing the connection we once had. I really, really was. And I had to accept that he's becoming independent, and it's going to be different, but it doesn't mean that you have to detach with anger with each other.
Yeah. I think that is such an important thing to remember. It's interesting, like we're all coaches and, executive coaches and helping people with books and things like that. But then sometimes our frustrations in our own families, they come out. I think I've had this conversation with my husband. Sometimes he's like, you wouldn't talk to your clients the way you're talking to me right now.
Exactly.
I mean, full disclosure.
It's so funny. I know, because when we're in our homes, right, we are just really ourselves, and we have a
Right.
safe environment to do that. And yeah, so I totally get it.
Well, he works from his office, one corner of the house, and I work from mine. So we don't always like see each other. And so we try to have our own inner work and rules around that, but sometimes it bleeds over a little bit.
No, I know, we do the same thing. We do the same thing. So I get it.
So how do you shift? So if you have some area of your life that you want to change, what's the first step?
The first step is to identify what you want to change. And then I think you need to ask yourself, what specifically do you want to change? Like I knew I wanted to be a kinder tone with my son. So then the next step I think is to say, what's behind that, right? But really look at, I like to ask the what's behind that? Why is that there? And then also, how can I shift that? But not too quickly. Like you need to really get the why. So I really needed to understand I'm grieving the relationship we once had. And I also, have a judgment about, okay, you're wasting your life playing too many video games. But how else could I get that out and maybe even shift that judgment or that mindset? So I think you've really got to identify what's not working inside and out, not just the outer.
I think that takes a lot of self-awareness though. I mean, how
does.
can you have that mirror at just the right perspective where you can actually see, I'm not irritated, I'm actually sad.
Yes, right.
I
You
mean,
know,
I don't know. I don't know if everybody could do that.
yeah, well, that's why, that's
That's why
why
I'm here.
cats. It's why we have
Right.
cats.
Mhm.
It's why we have coaches and therapists and thought leaders and books, right? That we can consult to do some of that inner work. It does help to have that. I mean, it's because I've been doing this for 20 years and it's my passion of personal transformation. But
Right.
yeah, if you don't have that knowledge, get someone who does that you can have in your support system that will help you to ask yourself those questions. And the book I recently wrote, The Authenticity Code, can help you as well in doing that inner self-reflection.
Yeah, let's jump into that. Tell us more about the authenticity code.
Yeah, well, it started as a training program several years ago, almost 12 years ago now. And I used to call it the Executive Presence and Presentation Skills Program. We do it inside of Fortune 500 companies. And I saw these incredible transformations happening. And it's because I studied transformation in my doctorate program at Columbia University. That was my dissertation research. What facilitates transformation? And I incorporated all those conditions into these programs. When I interviewed people, what was really the core they were getting from the program? It was, I'm becoming more me. Like I am giving myself to be permission to be authentic. And so I changed the name to the Authenticity Code. And the code is your presence, who you are, plus your audience, who you choose to be around, plus your presentation, which is your message, equals your success. So that's a little bit about it.
I love that. So do we play a role in choosing each one of these, or do we have like a natural gift or inclination? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so your presence is all about identifying your natural strengths and gifts and talents. So often we don't know what those are.
I know, I think that could be hard for many of us to figure it out. It's like, well, I'm kind of good at this, but I should be. It's like we feel like we should be good at certain things instead of where we naturally have an inclination.
Yeah, that's the should, it's the should brain of, yeah, maybe my parents told me I should be a lawyer, but I really don't want to be a lawyer.
I hate being a lawyer.
Yeah, I hate being a lawyer.
Like, what's that all about?
Yeah, and I think that there's actually an exercise in my book called the Authentic Brand Statement, and it asks you 10 questions that you answer and you put into a statement and with success criteria. And 2 of the questions deal with your greatest gift to give in the world. So for you to get in touch with what's your greatest strength that maybe people have continuously told you over and over again, you're so good at this. And I know for me, it's creating a safe environment for people to speak their truth. And then the second one is, what's your greatest wound? So to really get in touch with that greatest wound that maybe you had growing up, whether it was from a parent or an authority figure, because many times our greatest wound is actually our greatest gift to give. And when you combine those two together, you end up feeling more fulfilled when you're giving that in the world. So that's one way that you can get in touch with that. So my greatest wound was not, my parents didn't help me see and celebrate my unique gifts and talents. They were great parents, but that was one thing I didn't receive. When I stopped trying to receive it from the outer world and give it, that's when my business went to a completely new level. And my level of success went to a completely new level, because that's really what's behind the authenticity code, is helping people see and celebrate their unique gifts and talents.
Just, I think repeatedly, what I love about what you're saying, Dr. Sharon, is like, how do we take again this outer reflection and just reflect it right back into the core, right back into your soul? What's actually the truth here? Right?
Yes.
Because there's so much stuff that's swirling around. We have very, very noisy external worlds. And I don't think it always gives us the most accurate feedback about what is really, like you said, your authentic truth.
Right. And I wrote the book because I saw these transformations happening and I wanted to bring it to a wider audience. I would love to move 10 million people with the authenticity code, because I feel if more of us were doing what we were born to do and being who we were born to be, our world would be a better place. And I think that sometimes we just don't take the time out to reflect on that. So I wrote the book as if it could be a life coach in your living room as you're reading it and you're reflecting on the program exercises that we know are proven and that we know work.
I feel like you said something really important just now about taking the time out,
Yes.
actually figure it out. Okay. So like, that moment of time, it's a pause. I mean, how much time do you think it would take to figure this out?
I designed the book. It could be read from on a flight, from the East Coast to the West Coast. But to actually do the exercises, it could take, I don't know, you could probably set aside a couple days and do it, but I'm actually doing a book club coming up, and that's going to be a 6-week process where once a week we're meeting to go over a few chapters and we're going to do the exercises together. So it doesn't take that long, and it's 1 hour a week. I'm not saying that you have to take 6 weeks out of your life, but
I'm going to figure this out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
That would be nice, but no.
So once you figure it out, like once you unlock the truth of who you are, then what do you do? What do you do next? Like, I mean, you don't just throw everything out and then go in this new direction. Like, how do you weave it all together?
Well, I always say when you get in touch with your greatest gift to give in the world, you can give that in your family. You can give that with your friends, in your current job. And then you have a vision. So it really says, what's that role you most want to hold in the future? Well, let's say it's a global thought leader, or it's a CEO of your own business.
Right.
You then work towards that, but while giving your greatest gift in your current role. So it doesn't mean like what's happening with the Great Resignation. You just have to leave your job and hope for something better. It means that you're in touch with more of the core of who you are. And I've known people who, once they get that, within a couple of years are actually in the role they want as well. But you don't feel like it's overnight.
So what's next for you?
What's next for me is to continue to spread this. So right now I birthed the book, right? I birthed the authenticity code.
Congratulations. High five.
High five. And we have a mobile app, and we've got a virtual program, and we have an in-person program. So now it's really spreading that in the world and reaching those 10 million people. I will also write another book. I'm going to write about stories around people who have done the authenticity code and the impact that's had on their lives, because I think it's so important to read people's stories and see yourself in those.
Oh, absolutely. So where can we find the authenticity code and you?
So the authenticity code is on Amazon, and my website is insideoutlearning.com, and my LinkedIn is Dr. Sharon Lamm-Hartmann, and would love to connect with anyone who's on the show here.
Thank you for being on the Big Meow.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. I love what you're doing, Kristen. Thanks for doing this for so many women.
Thanks for listening to the Big Meow podcast, sponsored by C.A.T.S Network. If you liked what you heard, please take a moment to subscribe and share this podcast with your friends. You can also join our network filled with positivity and possibility. Visit www.catsnetworking.com to join us and learn more, together with your magical, motivated, and mystical new friends at C.A.T.S Network. Let's transform 1 million lives with your message. Are you feeling isolated, sitting at home in your PJs? Or perhaps you're tired of the comfy sweatpants with holes in them that are hidden just below the camera? I mean, you could puke at the thought of another day of Zoom meetings and reporting to your BOSS. Do you want freedom from your home office desk or the office cubicle? Do you want freedom from your current career? Or are you frustrated that your online biz dreams are going nowhere? It's all too overwhelming. Where do you start? All the tech, the choices, and your message. Yep, I said your message, your brand, your voice. What is it? Do you even know what that means? Do you need a biz coach but don't want to invest the big bucks? Let's face it, being a solopreneur is lonely, but you don't have to do it alone. And here's a solution. Join C.A.T.S Network. C.A.T.S Network is a woman-only membership community exclusively available to you, the life coach or executive coach, the author, the thought leader, or the public speaker. If you identify with this list or want to work on adding some of these to your skill set, C.A.T.S is the place for you. Check us out at www.catsnetworking.com. That's C-A-T-S networking.com. Because let's face it, cats are better together.